Well, hi, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here at the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you with a book haul, and I've got a couple other items here as well. Recently, my wife and I had celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. Can you believe it? She has put up with me for 20 years. And so we went out to, left the kids at home, let my oldest daughter take care of the youngest daughter. Grandma's here in town, so in case anything goes wrong, we went and got a hotel and stayed the night. And so we had a 2-day excursion. We went to the old market in Omaha, Nebraska, and stayed at what was the hotel called? The Deco Hotel, I think. It's like Art Deco style. That was a really cool experience, really cool hotel. They did just great service and everything. And then we went downtown to the old market, and it's like a shopping district if you've never been there, and got a lot of neat little shops. They got some emporiums where they've got a bunch of toys and stuff like that. So I was having a heyday. And anyway, needless to say, we also found a bookshop while we were there. We went out to eat, had a really nice dinner, and had some Mexican food, and it was really, really good. And it was a great time. And my wife and I, like I said, 20 years together. We have not done by ourselves without the kids, overnight like that. We have not done that. It may have been 20 years ago. It may have been like our second anniversary, somewhere in there. It was the last time we did that. And so it's been a long time, and we really enjoyed the time together, and got some shopping done, and just took a deep breath and relaxed. And it was fun. So thank you to my wife for that. But anyway, why are you here? You're here to see what I got along the way, because my wife, being the great woman she is, she allowed me to pick up a few new books, and she got to go do some shopping. She went out to Target, and while she was looking at home decor stuff, I, of course, wandered over to the toy aisle, and I found a couple of Hot Wheels I wanted to show you. The first one's a 1970 Chevy Chevelle. Check that out. Let me get this in the other hand here. Check that out. That's pretty sweet. And then the prize of the day from Target, in my opinion, my wife might disagree with me, but a 57 Chevy. Check that out. Isn't that awesome? And both of those, I got them for just $1.99. And so really happy to add those to the collection. One of the very first Hot Wheels I ever owned, or that I ever kept over a long period of time, was a 57 Chevy. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I have it. I haven't seen it. It might be buried in my stuff upstairs in the storage room, but I was really glad to find a brand new one. So that's what I found. I also found at one of the emporiums that you walk through, and it's very, very nostalgic. You go through and you see different eras of cartoons and toys and stuff. So you got like the Transformers, you've got Star Wars, you've got Masters of the Universe, and of course I got excited at the section for G.I. Joe. They had a whole display case for G.I. Joe stuff, and I like G.I. Joe. That was my cartoon and my toys when I grew up. And so I picked up 3 comic books from the G.I. Joe series that I did not have before. And so the first one was number 69 in the series. I picked up 2 from the G.I. Joe Special Missions. This one's number 3 Special Missions. And I already own number 1 Special Missions. And this one's number 10. And so I've been trying to continue to go and collect all of those, the whole series of G.I. Joes. I've got a handful of them, but I probably have like 25% of them, maybe. I don't even know if it's that high, but I've been trying to go and collect those, and it'll be my goal that once I have collected those, I would really like to just go through and read them all from number 1 all the way to number 100, and I can't remember what the series ended at. But anyway, that's what I've been working on. So it was nice to pick up those 3. They'll go well with the collection. So, what did we find while we were at the bookstore? I believe the bookstore was like the Jackson Street bookstore. I'll have to find the exact name of it. Should have looked it up before I started the video, sorry. But this bookstore was to die for. This bookstore was huge. This bookstore was covered wall to wall with books, books, books. They had bookshelves that went 11, 12 feet in the air, completely loaded with books. It was a book lover's paradise. It was like being in the islands. It was awesome. And it was like a couple different buildings. You can see where they had expanded into the different buildings. And so there's like 3 sections of this building. So over when you go in, if you go to the left, it was like the very first thing you hit was art photography and art history. And then there was a section for like sports. There was a section for, and I'll never remember all of them, but it was a lot of the little subgenres in there. If you went straight ahead into the shop, it was literature, so fictional stuff all the way through the center section. And then if you went off to the right, well, that was my section. Nothing but history, an entire building of nothing but history books. And it went the length of the building. You had 11, 12 foot high bookshelves all the way down the wall. And then you had bookshelves that came out from there. And the walking space, you only had about this much walking space in between each of the bookshelves. So it was loaded. They had entire sections for the Civil War, for the American Revolution, for the West, for presidents, for, I don't know, anything and everything you could think of. And it wasn't just American history. There was world history there as well. So they had this one section for Africa studies. So I remember seeing a book in particular that stood out over the Boer War. And that one sticks out because I think of Sean D. Standfast and that big old book haul he did on books on the Boer Wars. And so that one kind of stuck out. But they had whole sections of like civil rights. They had sections for, I don't know, women's studies. It was for anything and everything you could think of in American history and world history. And I started drooling almost immediately. And I'll be honest, when I started looking through the books, I didn't necessarily get even the best of what there was to offer because I was totally like, it was almost too much. Like, I know I hate to say that, but if you're just going there for a one-time visit and you know you have about an hour 15 to look through the bookstore, because that's what we put into the meter, the parking meter out front, or actually it was down the street, but I had about an hour and 15 to look. I was overwhelmed. There were so many books. It was awesome. Now, prices ranged from like $4, $5, $6. Like, there weren't a whole lot of them at $4. They were at typically the low end was like $7.50-ish. There were a couple for $4 or $5, but most of them were like $7.50 to about, there was a whole bunch at $10 a book, and then $11, $12. And then, of course, if you got into some of the more rare stuff, you could get up to $20, $30, just depending on what you were looking for. So I wanted to show you what I found. I picked up a whole bunch. I put down a whole bunch. I was like drooling over the Lincoln shelf. They had just tons of Lincoln books, and I had a bunch of them, but there was a whole lot of them I didn't have. Now, with that being said, you guys know how I am. I'm a budget shopper. I don't spend a ton of money, so I tried to stay under $10 per book. I think I had one of them that was $10, and I'll share the prices with you, but it was awesome. Jackson Street Books, I believe, is the name of the bookstore. I'll have to go double check that. But if you're ever in Omaha, near the old market, go check out that bookstore. It is fabulous. So anyway, 9 minutes in, I got to get to showing you the book. So here we go. So the first one here in the stack is The Reinterpretation of Early American History. This is Essays by 10 Leading Historians of Colonial America, edited by Ray Allen Billington. And I'm familiar with Ray Allen Billington. I had to read one of his books for my History of the Old West. And so I'm familiar with him, so I trust him as an editor. But this is, let me show you the book here. And this is the only book that really had any damage. It does have a little slight rip to the cover. I can put some tape on that, though. That is not a big deal. But the rest of the book, tight binding, as you can see. This was a $4 book. Let's see here. It's from the Norton Library, W.W. Norton and Company out of New York. And it's a 1968 book, originally published in 1966, I think. Is that right? Yeah. But anyway, just got several different essays from different people. Alan Nevins is in here, Edmund Morgan, Clarence Versteeg, Merrill Jensen. Trying to get the ones that I immediately recognize here. Jack Green, Lawrence Henry Gibson. So big name authors that have done essays on early American history, which I teach. Absolutely love learning about it, so that'll be good. The next one that I picked out of there was Origin of the American Revolution, 1759 to 1766. So this is basically that time period of the French and Indian War and getting into the beginnings of taxation. I haven't looked through it, but I imagine it'll talk about Pontiac's Rebellion and stuff like that. But this is by Bernhard Nollenberg. And this is a book that I see all the time on the, it's a book I see all the time on the back of the sources for other books. And so I was real excited to pick this one up. This is only a $5 book. It's got a little bit of age to it, just like the other one. It's from the Free Press out of New York, and it is a 1961 book. So it's in really good shape for being a 1961. You notice the binding is all tight. If you look down the center there, there's no breaks in the spine or anything like that. So it's about 350 pages. Go ahead and read you the back end of the book here. It says, a noted historian of colonial America analyzes the critical period in our nation's past when provocative British political, trade, and religious measures brought the colonies to the brink of rebellion. Assembling his evidence from a wealth of English and colonial sources, the author provides a detailed account of the events that first disturbed and later outraged American advocates of self-government. The British Privy Council's direct interference in colonial legislatures and judiciaries, enforcement of the Sugar Act, and other measures restricting colonial trade. The American Act of 1764 taxing the colonies for support of a standing army without consultation on its composition. The activities of the Archbishop of Canterbury in attempting to spread the influence of the Church of England. And finally, the Stamp Act of 1765. The author supplements his examination of the American view of these events with a survey of the simultaneous developments in British politics and government. So anyway, I'm real excited to pick this up. This is what we just got done talking about in my 8th grade American history class right before Christmas break. And so we'll be coming back talking about the Revolution. So I was real happy to pick that up. That'll help me in class. All right, the next one I was real excited to find, and again, you can't have a book haul at the Ruttenberg Library without finding some Lincoln books, right? So this is by Gaber Borit, and it is Lincoln, the War President, the Gettysburg Lectures. And Gaber Borit was the editor in this because it's going to be a bunch of essays. So there you go. And this was $6.50, and this is from, let's see, out of New York, the Oxford University Press. It's a 1992 book. And your essays, check out who these essays are from. Robert Bruce, James McPherson, David Bryan Davis, Carl Degler, Kenneth Stamp, Arthur Schlesinger Jr., and Gaber Borit. So I'm super excited to read that. Those are all big name authors of the time period, and very happy to have that. Next book is Washington's General, Nathaniel Greene and the Triumph of the American Revolution by Terry Galway. And this was a $6 book. And it is a John McCrae Holt paperback, Henry Holt and Company, out of New York. And this biography is from the year 2006. So it is a little bit newer, in my used library sense anyway. But anyway, I did not have any biographies on Nathaniel Green. And I'm always, thinking to myself after we get done with the Revolution, man, why have I never read a biography on Nathaniel Green? He had such a huge impact on the Revolution. Why not? And so I saw this and I put back a couple other books and grabbed this one. The price was right. Like I said, it was only $6. So I was pretty happy with that. Back cover says, he was an unlikely warrior, a Quaker and with a pronounced limp. Nathaniel Green surprised fellow patriots by rising quickly to become George Washington's favorite soldier and the heir apparent. After taking command of the Southern Army, Green formulated an unorthodox strategy to win by surprise attacks and hasty retreats, which cut the enemy's supply lines until the British leaders tired of hunger and bloody sacrifices. His talents for turning defeat into victory allowed the rebel army to gain momentum toward a final push. In one of the most audacious decisions of the war, Green divided his army, separating Daniel Morgan's nimble troops from his own by 120 miles, with Cornwallis's army between them. The gamble paid off handsomely. Green's unconventional victory sealed the bargain, and the way was prepared for the final victory at Yorktown less than a year later. Terry Galway's bold new book, drawn from field documents, letters, diaries, and other sources, takes full account of the scope of Nathaniel Green's remarkable accomplishments, returning the forgotten patriot to his proper place in American history. So, real excited about that. I think that's going to be real good. The next one that I got is a $7.50 book, and it is Fields of Battle, The Wars for North America by John Keegan. And you can never go wrong with John Keegan. He is an excellent, excellent author. And so I picked that one up. And the price was, I thought, really good because this book is brand new looking. When we're talking used books, this is in brand new condition. Not a lot of wear on it at all. Again, $7.50. And Alfred A. Knopf out of New York, 1996, is when this one was created. And I will say real fast, before I forget, this bookstore, the Jackson Street Books, and like I said, I'll have to find the name of it. But anyway, the great thing about this bookstore is every one of the books, at least in the history section, that 1/3 of the store that was nothing but history, all of the history books were good titles. When you go to other used bookstores, you have to sort through junk, and you can easily go through a shelf and nope. This bookstore was the exact opposite. It was yes, that, I want those books. And so if you ever get a chance, go see that bookstore. Let me read this inside cover to you. It says, in North America, geography has shaped the course of military history as it has nowhere else in the world. Our vast interior spaces, huge mountain ranges, and extensive river systems, and boundless prairies have determined each critical conflict for control of the continent. Guided by this central insight, the acclaimed military historian John Keegan takes us on a tour of every major fortification and scene of battle in North America, from the arrival of the Europeans in the 16th century to the final defeat of the Native American population in the 19th. He shows how the unique character of the American terrain and climate and the inevitable competition for the land's wealth of natural resources dictated why men fortified where they did, campaigned as they did, and were drawn to those battlefields. Yorktown, Gettysburg, Bull Run, to mention only a few, whose names are now part of our mythology. Drawing upon more than 30 years of experience researching and writing about warfare throughout recorded time, Keegan brings his unique understanding to bear on all the famed engagements of our military history, including Wolfe's victory over Montcalm at Quebec, the legendary battles of the Revolutionary War. As Keegan explains, Washington knew particularly well how to use space and distance, and of course, the colossal campaigns of the Civil War. An important theme of this book concerns how the war-making assumptions of the old world met conditions in the new, and so Keegan concludes his narrative with an apt twist. He recalls the arrival of troops from the United States and Canada to save his native Britain and liberate France from German domination during World War II. Like a modern-day de Tocqueville, Keegan has traveled across our land and into the past with wonder and affection. Fields of Battle allows us to rediscover our military heritage from a lively, new perspective and with matchless insight for which John Keegan is renowned. And this is going to be wonderful. I cannot wait. I teach geography. I teach history. It's going to be everything that I love. And I can tell you, John Keegan's book on the Civil War, which I read, his ideas of how geography affects warfare are awesome. He does a great job of explaining that. I remember that. I remember him talking about in the Civil War, just the different rivers and the way that they flowed during the Civil War. The way those rivers flowed definitely either helped or impeded the different armies who were invading, and he does a really good job of explaining all of that. So I'm really looking forward to this. I highly recommend John Keegan, by the way. Most people already know that, but if you are amateur to military history and you're wanting to get into it, John Keegan is the way to go. All right, so the last book on this book haul that I got at the Jackson Street bookstore is Lincoln and the American Manifesto by Alan Jane. And this is a super cool cover. I'd never seen this book before. This is the only $10 book out of the bunch. The rest of them I got for under 10. But show you those covers. This is from Prometheus Books out of Amherst, New York, and it is from 2007. It is in excellent condition, pretty much brand new condition. As you can see, the spine is good. The jacket is in great condition. But this last book, I had a couple other Lincoln books that I had picked up that I ended up putting down because of this one. It just sounded interesting. And by the way, I did find on that Lincoln shelf Lord Charnwood's biography on Lincoln, which is always in the sources, and I've looked on Amazon and can never afford it, and it just looks like it'd be interesting to read, but I found that one at the bookstore. It had a couple of older biographies that are definitely a part of the Lincoln bibliography, or historiography, I believe that would be the right word. But anyway, let me read this inside cover and we'll wrap this up. So it says, in this compelling study of the moral principles that profoundly influenced the thinking of Abraham Lincoln, Cambridge historian Alan Jane argues persuasively that Lincoln regarded the Declaration of Independence as the American Manifesto. To Lincoln, that manifesto of 1776 mandated the abolition of slavery with its ideals of God-given individual liberty and government created to protect that liberty. He stated this again and again in his speeches. The Declaration thereby became the script that Lincoln followed in his struggle to preserve the Union and extend individual liberties to African Americans. Lincoln in the American Manifesto also explains why Thomas Jefferson made the reason-based nature's God of deism, not the revelation-based Judeo-Christian God, the basis of the political and moral philosophy of the Declaration of Independence, the nation's founding document. Jane thereby challenges the widely held notion that the United States was founded on biblical revelation based on Judeo-Christian morality. Moreover, he demonstrates that Lincoln's philosophy, like Jefferson's, was rooted in the European Enlightenment and deism, which gave Lincoln an understanding and appreciation of what Jefferson did in the Declaration. This book thereby challenges another widely held notion that Lincoln was a mainstream Christian. This insightful look into the thinking of one of America's greatest presidents during America's greatest crisis is highly relevant today. It considers issues Lincoln dealt with that continue to confront America, such as restricting civil rights for security reasons and controlling Supreme Court power. More important, at a time when religious extremism and violence is increasing in our world, Jane explains how deistic tolerance and the universal moral idealism of the Declaration of Independence, enforced by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, put religion under man-made law, thereby taming religious strife and coercion that had plagued Western civilization for over 1,000 years. All right, so that just sounds fascinating. It's some topics that I've been studying of recent, and some topics that have always interested me. Lincoln's relationship with God. Is it what, there's different ways of looking at that. And then just how he really relied on the Declaration of Independence. That is the American Manifesto. And so, anyway, I look forward to reading that. That should be an interesting read. So, let's do the pyramid here. See if I can do this without dropping everything. So we've got Lincoln and the American Manifesto. We've got Fields of Battle, The Wars for North America by John Keegan. We've got Washington's General, Nathaniel Greene and the Triumph of the American Revolution by Terry Galway. We've got Lincoln, the War President, the Gettysburg Lectures. And so this is edited by Gaber Borit. It's a collection of stuff. I've got Origin of the American Revolution, 1759 to 1766 by Bernard Nollenberg. And then last but not least, we've got the interpretation of early American history with essays by 10 different people. So there's my stack for the Jackson Street books. And then, of course, I had my 3 comic books that I picked up. We'll throw them on there. And then, of course, the 2, where did they go? Oh, there they are. And my 2 Hot Wheels. So that was my 20th anniversary book haul. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope maybe it added to your TBR booktube. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the new subscribers to the channel. And, I'll try to keep bringing this content. I know I have another book haul that this one's more of a mail haul, but I'll show you that in just a little bit. So until next time, BookTube, happy reading.